after the Warriors game, everyone's kind of, going to the bathroom, getting food, getting a beer, whatever it is that they're doing, and getting ready for the Lakers game. And, I kind of walk into the concourse. I got to see my guy Raj. You guys remember Raj from State of the Lakers? It was my first time getting to see him in person. I met him right before the Lakers game started. And we walk into the arena, and there's kind of like this buzz. And a buzz that wasn't there the rest of the day. And everyone's standing in the arena, and I'm like, what's going on? And everyone's standing with their phones out looking down towards one of the baskets. And I look down, and there's LeBron James. And like I've been in the arena with LeBron 3 times in my life. Once in 2016, the year they won the title, and then once the year after that. And, I've never seen, and I know there are other players like this in the league, namely Steph or Kevin Durant, but like I've never seen a person that has the fame aura that LeBron James has. And every time that I see him in person, that's always the biggest thing that stands out to me. There's just everybody stops what they're doing and stares. it's a wild thing. But so LeBron's sitting down, and then I hear that Russ is there, but I can't find him. So I'm like looking around all over the place, and I'm trying to use Twitter to locate where Russ is. And then I notice he's all the way on the opposite end of the court. I was sitting just about like maybe 10 rows up from where LeBron was on that side of the gym. And I'm like zooming in with my cell phone camera trying to get a look, and I see him over there sitting by the Lakers bench. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. But you're not going to read too much into it, right? But then everyone starts coming by to say hi to LeBron. And it's just one after the other. Like, here comes Rich Paul. Like, here comes Damon Jones. Like, here comes, Rob Pelinka. Here comes Darvin Ham. Here comes all of this line of other NBA players and personnel and people that are friends with LeBron. And it's just kind of like a train of people coming to say hi. Except for Russ. There's none of that going on with Russ. Nobody... none of the Lakers personnel that I could tell went up to Russ other than Rob Pelinka was the one that I saw. And then Russ never came up to see LeBron. Now, do I think Russ and LeBron aren't friends anymore? No. I don't think that's the issue here. But the point is it's awkward. It's awkward. And, everything is, especially with LeBron, who's so calculated, there's just kind of a weird vibe going on there. But one of the things that I thought was so bizarre about that whole situation was Russ. It's kind of strange that he subjects himself to this. Like, the rumors, and what everyone's saying, and what's about to happen. Like, the vast majority of people, and we're going to get to this in a minute, think that Kyrie Irving is going to be traded for you. And you're sitting by the Lakers bench, not going to say hi to LeBron or whatever, which that's partially his fault too, right? But then you're also getting into the Lakers huddle, and you're like coaching up Lakers players and like kind of acting like you're a part of everything. And you are, but it's like, I almost felt bad for him. But at the same time, I'm like, but why did you do that to yourself? Like, he kind of became the butt of the joke on Twitter that night, right? Like, everyone's just kind of talking about Russ being at the game, not being with LeBron, and hanging out with the Lakers guys. And from a certain standpoint, I want to be like, dude, like you don't have to do that to yourself. But like, this is the greatest example of why it's so important to move on from the Russ experience. Like, yes, Russ is toxic, and he brings a lot of this on himself. But the Laker fan base is also extremely loud, and some elements of the Laker fan base can be toxic. And I mean, obviously, a lot of Lakers media is sick and tired of him, including myself. I covered the team last year, and it was like one of the hardest players that I've ever had to cover, and like arguably the most offensive basketball player that I've ever watched. Like, he's offensive to me as a basketball fan, as I always tell you guys. And it's just a lot for him to be under that all the time. And I'm ready for Russ to go somewhere else where he can be in a low stakes, low pressure situation with a fan base that will love him because they don't have the insane title aspirations that Laker fans always do. And there he can kind of fall into the background a little bit and be Russ. Because as much as I know he brings this on himself, it's sad. It's starting to get sad. and I'm just ready for this whole fiasco to be over. So I don't want to jump to any extraordinary conclusions, because there was a lot of intel in 2019 in the summer that was pointing to Kawhi going to the Lakers. It was like everything looked like Kawhi to the Lakers, and then it just didn't happen. And people within the Lakers thought Kawhi was going to be a Laker, and then it just didn't happen, right? But there's a similar feel from the Kyrie stuff that everything appears to be kind of pointing that way. From what I heard from people who would know, including people that are involved with the team, they think he's coming. The Miles Turner stuff and Buddy Hield stuff it's not fake. It's kind of like a backup plan, but they think Kyrie's coming, right? So like everything's kind of pointing in that direction. I still believe it's going to happen. There was the night before Kyrie showed up, he was at, I believe, a WNBA event or something like that, and someone yelled at him, when are you going to be a Laker? And he said, soon, or something like that. So Kyrie seems to believe it's happening as well. The one thing I was hoping would happen that would just for the sake of the Twitter moment is it would have been cool to see LeBron come into the arena last night too and just go sit next to Kyrie just to whip everybody up into a frenzy. But I mean, I it's never over till it's over, and especially after what happened with that Kyrie stuff, you never know. Or excuse me, the Kawhi stuff, you never know. But everything is pointing towards Kyrie being a Laker, and from what I understand, people with the Lakers also believe that's going to be the case. And I believe it was Chris Haynes, if I remember correctly, but someone straight up came out and reported yesterday that LeBron's not even going to sign his extension unless Kyrie's a Laker. So I would count on that happening in all likelihood. A couple of quick things before we get out of here. Damian Lillard in this weird morality play. So you guys all saw the quotes, I'm sure, but he basically said that he's hoping he can set an example to the future generations that you can be loyal to your team and play for the name on the front of the jersey instead of the name on the back. Now, to be clear, I think it's cool that Dame's staying in Portland. And I do wish more players would stay. I talked about this with Colin after the finals, but I think it's a big part of the future health of the league. But make no mistake, here's what's actually happening here. This is one gigantic attempt to control the narrative. And Dame frames leaving as taking the easy way out. And in a literal sense, it is, because basketball is easier when you play with more talent. But it's also the easy way out to do what Dame is doing, in the sense that he's taking all the pressure off of himself. If you stay in Portland, and everybody in the league knows you don't have as much talent as the other top teams in the league, if you win, you're the hero who brought Portland a title. If you lose, it's you were supposed to. And again, I can't speak for Dame, but I like to think that I'm pretty sure that's a factor here. And that's why I don't like the morality play. It's dope that you're staying. I'm happy for you. I'm happy for Portland fans. It's great for the league. But it also makes sense for you to stay because it relieves pressure. And at the end of the day, if you never win a title in Portland, no one will judge you because of the fact that you never really had that much talent there. I know Dame's aware of that, and that's why he's releasing these quotes. He's not releasing these quotes to try to set a trend for what future stars will do. He's releasing these quotes to protect himself and protect the narrative of his time in Portland. And I just, again, let's just call it what it is. It's great that you're staying, but we know that this is a part of that story, and that's why you keep pumping these quotes out into NBA Twitter. And the last but not least, James Harden. Intel is still working on a deal, but Intel is he's going to take a discount. Hey, man, like I have been really critical of James Harden as someone who's distracted and who doesn't put the team first. If he takes a discount to help the Sixers round out this roster and put together a contender, tip of the cap to James Harden. That demonstrates a willingness to commit and a willingness to try to achieve the ultimate goal, which is winning. So kudos to James Harden. There was some intel in the tweets. I was saying that like the team is essentially pushing James Harden to take his conditioning more seriously. We're going to find out if that's the case at the start of the next season.